Hi everybody, I'm Linda Faulkner. I'm an independent Stampin' Up demonstrator and my website is www.crafterinspired.com. Today I wanted to show you how to make this beautiful card. It's using one of the prettiest framelits I think we've ever used. It's called Flourish framelits or thinlet dies, and it has a little pocket that those are going to tuck into with a sentiment on the inside. So let's get started. I'm starting with a sheet of cardstock cut in half. So now I have a piece of white Whisper White cardstock. It's 8.5 by 5.5. I'm going to score that down the center at 4 1/4. So when I fold it and use a bone folder or press that with your fingernails, I get a card that's going to be 5.5 by 4 1/4. And I'll be using it this direction. Notice I didn't fold it perfectly. I rarely do. So all you simply do, if that happens to you, is take your scissors and just trim off that extra. You've got a perfect line to go by, and that will make your card the same on both sides. I don't like that overhang. It drives me crazy. So now we're good to go. I'm going to stamp the inside of the card first. The reason for that is that if I mess it up, I will not have messed up a finished card, although there's ways of fixing that also. But the inside of my card has this particular sentiment. It says, "Hope your day brings just what it should, happiness, health, and everything good." And then I did a little bit of the Flourishing Phrases stamp right there in the corner. Let me show you both of those stamp sets. Here is Flourishing Phrases. It's one that was brought back. It's been around a while, and I think it's still one of my favorites. It's just beautiful, and so many different occasions. It can be used for so many different things. And then I used the sentiment from a brand new set called Special Celebrations, and it's so big it has two whole sets of stamps in it. There are 14 stamps altogether, and I used Thanks for Being You, and then on the inside I used the one we just talked about, Hope your day brings just what it should. Now notice this Thanks for Being You is long, and I wanted it to fit in a circle that looks like this. So all you do is I just cut my stamp in half and then moved the second half down. I do that with a lot of my stamps. It works pretty good unless the print is really, really tiny. So just make sure you're not cutting a letter. So let's start stamping. I've already done this one, as you saw. So I'm using crumb cake. And here's the inside sentiment. This is mounted on a clear block. It's a red rubber stamp on clear block. Ink it up pretty good. I don't think that's good enough. And then we'll stamp it right in the center. Got a good stamp on it. And then the second one, I'm just going to use a part of the Flourish. This is the large Flourish from the Flourishing Phrases stamp set. And I'm using So Saffron ink. And here is the actual stamp. You see how big it is, the top of it, because I'm just going to put it in the corner and stamp off my page. Oh, how about right there? Oh, that'll work perfectly. And then when you remove it, you see you have this little corner decoration. Love that. You could do it in the other corner too, if you like. For my framelits, I'm using the large Flourish, the smaller flower, and then just the flower bud. And then I'm also going to need 2 circles for my sentiment. The saffron, the yellow, is 1 7/8 inch circle. You can use a framelit like I have here, or you could also use a circle punch if you have one that size. Or you can use a different sentiment with different types of punches. You could use the label punch or anything, something that you have. You don't need to buy a special punch just for one card. And then I have a smaller circle here that says Thanks for Being You for my sentiment, and that's a 1 1/2 inch circle. Now, I always stamp before I cut or punch in case I mess up my stamp. I don't have to do all of it over again. But another little trick, when you have something that you do not want that framelit to move, like for a sentiment, what I do is I take a little sticky note. Here's the sticky on the back. You can just use a corner of it and use the sticky part to hold that in place. And then I think I will probably just tear that off so it won't get in the way of my machine. Then I'm just going to run all that through the Big Shot. Now, for these framelits, since they're so intricate, I will probably run it through twice for those. Using the precision plate and my platform and my thin plate adapter, on top of that will go a clear plate, and then I'll run it through. You really don't need a precision plate for the 2 circles, but since I've already got it out, I'm going to run it all through at once. Okay, so I've already done that just to save us a little time, but I wanted to show you what the setup looks like. All right, Big Shot done. So let's start assembling our card. On the front, the first thing that's going to go down is a So Saffron layer. I've cut it, let me get you the dimensions. It's 4 by 5 1/4. So I've taken 1/4 of an inch off from the size of my card. So it's going to have 1/8 of an inch on each side extra. So let me get some tape runner on that. And we'll get that on to get started with. Now on top of that is going to go this wood layer. And you notice the top corner is pulled back. So let me show you how to do that. And then we'll get some our little stamping done for our flower before we attach it. Here's the paper I'm using, and this is from the new designer series 6x6 paper called Wood Texture. Let me show you that. It's coming out in the 2017-18 catalog on June 1st. And these are the papers. There's 40 of them. They're 2-sided. And look at all the different wood designs that you'll get. They're just beautiful. They go all the way from gray to a rich brown. And I've used quite a few of them. There's also a white, kind of a whitewashed one that I've already used on another card, so it's already gone. Okay, so I need to do that, a score line about halfway across to this corner so that I can fold that flap down. This is a beautiful technique you can use on lots of different cards, especially with 2-sided paper, because it's going to give you a totally different design on the other side. Now the wood, you really can't tell that much difference, but some papers really have a contrast on the back. Okay, so I'm going to go from the upper left corner to about halfway down. So I'm putting that where that score line is going to go in that groove. And I have 2 blades. This is my cutting blade. Great, don't want to use that. Here's my scoring blade. It's just going to make an impression. So I'm going to go across that a couple of times. And I don't know if you can see this. Yeah, you can see the score line just a little bit. But then I can fold it back on that score line. And you can make it as deep as you want. You could just do a little peak and make it smaller at the top, however you want to do that. Okay, there we go. Okay, now before I go any further, I need to stamp my Flourish here on the yellow. If you can see in the background, there's just a little bit of white Flourish from that large die that we just used on the inside. And I want to stamp that in. You could do it in the same yellow if you like. It'd just give it a different look. I'm going to use white. So I'm going to get my stamp ready. And this is called Whisper White. And this is a craft ink. White has to be the craft ink or it's not going to show up. But it does take a little bit longer to dry. So when you're using your craft ink, you want to be kind of careful. Now, you have an issue here because your actual stamp is probably bigger than your stamp pad. So when that happens, I usually just use my stamp pad and I just need the top of it. And I'm going to ink my stamp with my pad like that. And just go where it's going to hit the top corner. And it's just going to give you a little shadow effect. Isn't that pretty? All right. At this point, I think we are ready to put our pocket on. Now, I'm going to just use tape runner on 3 sides because I want the pocket, the top slant edge, to be open so that I can tuck my flowers in. So I'm going to put some tape runner here and here, those 3 sides. And this particular piece was cut so that it would be 1/8 of an inch smaller than the yellow all the way around. And my wood, let's get the dimensions for you on that one. My wood piece was cut 3 3/4 by 5 inches. And of course that score line was from upper left corner to about halfway down the opposite side. Okay, see how that works? Now I'm probably going to want to use a glue dot on the back of that to keep that down, or just a little piece of tape runner. I just need a little piece so that that flap stays down. Okay, now notice I have a pocket here, and that's where my dies are going to go, and I have already cut those out. Let me pull those out, and I have the large one, the small one, and then a little flower. So let me tuck those in and kind of play with it, make sure it's where I want. I like having those edges hang out. You can tuck it in about like that, or you could even, I think I'm just going to tear the bottom off of it so it's a little bit easier to tuck. Now I am going to put tape runner on this. You could also use a piece of wax paper or silicone pad and sponge some regular glue on the back, but I'm going to use tape runner. I'm going to get it over here where it won't be in my workspace so I don't have sticky. And then on the top part, I'm just going to do a few little spots that have quite a bit of paper on them. It's pretty busy, so I don't think it's going to show through enough that anybody would even notice. And just a little bit on that top flower, okay? So I'll pull that off. And let's tuck that in where we like the look of it. I think I'm going to have a few pieces hanging over the edge. I kind of like the look of it like that. Little glue on the outside, you just rub that, it'll come off. And you won't even see it. Take a little more time on my own later to finish that off. Okay, so there's one piece. I'm going to put this flower maybe, let's see, how about right there? So I'm just going to put a little tape runner on the bottom of it and just play with it, arrange it like you like it. And this one, I think I'm going to wait. Let me get my sentiment on first so that I can tuck it underneath part of the sentiment. So to build my sentiment, I have the yellow. I have one of the small gold doilies, and I'm going to use tape runner on the back of that one. Center it on my yellow saffron. Of course, I put it right where I had that sticky, didn't I? All right, there we go. And then I think I'm going to use a pop dot, Stampin' Dimensional, to take care of the back of that. You know, we're almost done. It goes pretty quickly. And center that. Okay, so I have my sentiment. Now let's look back at my original card. I need to get my lace on, and then I'll do my sentiment, and then my flower, and then do the embellishments with the pearls and my copper ribbon. All right, so I'm going to just put a glue dot down and lay my bow on top of it. We're almost there. The last thing to do is to take some pearls and decorate. I think I put one on the sentiment, and then I added some to the rest of the card. And here's what you come up with. There's the 4 pearls, and then on the inside you have your sentiment and your decoration. I hope you had fun with that. I can see lots of possibilities for this card using different papers, so I'm anxious to do some more of them and adjust how far down I pull that little flap for a totally different look. My name is Linda Faulkner. Thank you so much for joining me. My website is www.crafterinspired.com. and love for you to visit me for more ideas. Thanks again.